What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Sunday night. We are not in the Twilight Zone, like JC's trying to show you if you're looking through his fingers. We're not in the Twilight Zone, but we are live. I want to thank everybody who's watching, whoever's listening. Thank you guys for listening, and welcome back to Landscaping to the Point. I am joined by my great host next to me, JC, my great host underneath me, Josh. He's the Boston Strangler. Sometimes they call him. I don't know what.
Whoa.
You never know, right? No, and it's me, Scott, your other host. So welcome back, everybody. And so it's another week. We survived another week. It's been hectic and rainy here. I don't know about you guys. We literally got 2 days worth of the one day we had 2 inches, and the other day was just Friday night where we got 3 inches of rain. So literally, I wish it would have been snow. I mean, we probably would have had, a good foot of snow, but the plows have been off for a while and all put away. So I hope it doesn't snow. So, but you never know. I mean, it's still kind of early, and we are into April right now. So it's about that time for a lot of things all over the country. So what about you guys? How's it been over in your area?
Wet, dry, warm, cold. I don't know what to tell you. It was kind of wet off and on last week. Some beautiful weather in between. And then this whole weekend's been off and on rain. And then it looks like rain with the chance of some snow tomorrow. And then a little bit of rain on Tuesday. And then the wind chill temperatures at night are going back into the 20s from what I can see. But again, that changes day to day every few hours. It keeps on changing. Like they said it was supposed to be rain from 2 a.m. Saturday straight on to 8 p.m. tonight. And it's, what was it, back and forth? Like it didn't start snowing until probably about 4 p.m. on Saturday. Stopped at midnight. And I think it rained last night and it hasn't rained again today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good, but that snow. Are you prepared to go back out and plow?
Yeah, I mean minimal. Like we got one sander on one truck, and then we have plows left. But again, it's like you go out right now, it's kind of muggy, and
Right.
Anything that hits, unless it's at nighttime, is gonna melt. You could probably burn it off with salt. I'm not anticipating much. Again, that forecast will probably change. That warm air will push in. I doubt you'll see anything. It'll probably be more of like a coating on like mulch beds and grass, if anything.
That's good. I mean, as long as it's out there and you've got the salt. I mean, everybody with that salt, problem, is that going to affect you if you have to go out and salt, or do you got enough for just in case?
No, I got full salt bins.
That's good. I mean, that's always good that you have the salt and you're ready to go with it, when it comes in like that, so.
Yeah, this month's been crazy, man.
Yeah. Last month was crazy. I mean, now that we're starting April, man, it's already starting out crazy. I mean, we're kind of getting into a big rush of everything. So it's like amazing how everything's just changing real quick, So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it really took to the saying of April Fools. Like we've been getting fooled with all this weather that's been happening. And yeah, to think like snow, I think on Tuesday night, Josh, right? You were saying Tuesday? Yeah.
Well, some potentially some stuff coming in Central Mass tomorrow, and then Tuesday, maybe a coating or so. They're saying, who knows?
It's nuts, man. It's just like spring's on the verge of getting here, but it doesn't want to get here just yet.
Right. It's one of those things that you hope that it kind of holds off and it just goes right to spring. I mean, I'm hoping. I mean, it's weird because March, it was like so warm at the beginning, and ready to do stuff, and it's sunny and dry, and now we're into that cold, wet grass that you're like, why now? I was talking to one of the other guys that's near me, and he hasn't even started spring cleanups, and a lot of companies like mine are already done with spring cleanups. We're just kind of getting into like mulchings and getting landscaping done, and I'm just like, dude, you're gonna have fun with these yards of being soaked and wet and soggy. Like you're not gonna be able to get a lot of them leaves taken out care of, And he's like, yeah, we'll probably end up having to be behind for the start of the year, and that's something that I always feel like you should probably be ahead just in case and be prepared for this kind of weather.
Yeah,
You
we're not
never
going to
know
be
what.
jumping into any cleanups anytime soon. It's weird because I saw a guy yesterday on a stand on Gravely doing a yard, and I'm like, it's he's going to be absolutely tearing up that yard that he's working on. I have no idea what he was doing, but I think they were trying to get an early start on some of these cleanups and stuff, and I don't know, it's way too early for us.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got what, a month pretty much before, or about mid month?
Yeah, I'd say a
Yeah.
month, right?
I mean, like we've started commercial cleanups. I mean, that's a given. You kind of have to, but the residential stuff, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want a landscaper coming to my house until like the very end of April, beginning of May, because there's still that potential for like nor'easter weather, between now and May 1st. So, I think we have like one or two requests on the residential side for a cleanup. And that's usually a good customer. But the goal is to try to bang out all our municipal and commercial contract cleanups and mulch by the end of the month. Um, Hopefully, and then we usually get in. You want to start mowing around the beginning of May, depending, like grass is starting to come up, but it's not always justified. So during like anytime we did residentials in the past, we give them that first mow on the spring cleanup, and then get them right into the rotation after that. But yeah, it was still kind of early. Like Jay said, I've seen guys doing residential houses, and I know those are probably the guys that have 200-300 cleanups. But I'd be kind of pissed if a guy showed up at my house right now, detaching and seeding and whatnot.
Right, right. Especially this early, especially early. When you're definitely early, you don't want to be out there too early. And like in our area, it would be like February. You wouldn't want to see a guy out in February trying to do a cleanup just because it's there's no snow. Um, but I got a question for you, Josh. You do a lot of commercial cleanups and stuff. So you were talking about getting all the commercial cleanups and mulching done. So we've been kind of playing with this idea, and I've seen other companies doing it. Is that like when they show up to a yard, you do the cleanup, you do the mulching, the pruning if it needs it, the fertilization, whatever it needs, right off at the first bat. Do you do that?
On the commercial properties, yeah. Depending on
Okay.
what the scope of work on the contract is. So we have some where pruning is absolutely not part of the spring cleanup, but more of like, an out of scope summer service. But
Right.
essentially, it's our cleanups for most of our contracts are blow off parking lots. Clean up any excess debris from winter, trim maybe dead branches. For us, we usually cut everything back and trim everything in the fall, so we don't have to deal with it. It's usually raking out the mulch beds, edging the mulch beds. Um, maybe a quick detaching of the lawn if we're able to. Again, like Jay said, like you could tear up someone's lawn with a lawnmower. So if it's allowed by turf conditions, we'll give them a detaching, and then the mulch usually not right away. We usually have a second cycle for mulch, but we'll put down the snapshot, which is the pre-emergent in the beds. Like right now, we're trying, like I think Thursday and Friday, we went around and tried to get as much pre-emergent in the beds, knowing that it was going to rain this weekend, to try to get it to really, dissolve into the soils.
Right. I think that's one of the best things to do is get like a snapshot or a prenup bed,
Yeah, but
especially before you do the whole.
on the
Yeah.
residential side, we try to do it one and done.
Right.
So
Okay.
like we have a lot of residentials where we don't mow; they mow themselves. But we'll go in,
Right.
we'll do the trimming, we'll do the edging, we'll do the detaching, whatever the scope of work is, and do the mulch at the same time. One and done. We try not to, unless we have a really busy schedule. We try to do it one shot.
Okay. Do you feel like that makes it easier to do it all at once than to have to come back? I mean, I know like Gus, we're doing a cleanup and then we're coming back maybe 3-4 weeks later to do the mulch. But then at
Um,
that point, the beds are probably you get some leaves that blow across, and then we're out there re-blowing some of those beds. So do you find it easier to do the one and done on those?
on the resis, depending on the size of the property, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's done. And I think people understand. But again, that's why we don't hit the residentials until we know that the weather's right. As far as the commercial properties, they get done. They want them done, so they're ready for May 1st around that time. Um, not a lot of my commercial properties have lawns. Usually it's going and we have some that are porter services. We have some that are just weeding services and blowing things off, maybe a patch of grass. So, a few leaves or something blow into a bed, then that's fine. It's whatever.
I think the residents enjoy the one and done because it's like instant gratification because it gets them into the season, gets them like
Yeah.
started off. They've been like staying in all winter with the snow on their property and not being able to enjoy their lawns. And you go in there, you do the beds, you do the mulch, you do the mowings, you do the cleanup, and it just kind of get them started for the season so that you're just going back doing maintenance.
Yeah.
Right. Right. I think it's easier too. Plus, if you have a couple crews, or you're taking everybody and bringing it right there to you. You bring in your mulch, you're hauling away whatever junk has to be hauled away, but then you can show up, two-man, like two crews, and just knock it out as fast as you can instead of having to split off and do two different cleanups in different areas or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a little easier. So
Yeah, and they don't want you constantly in their property either, too, all the time.
Yeah.
especially if you're only doing, you're not mowing them. I don't think they're going to want you there like 4 times just to do a cleanup and mulch and preen and snapshot their beds. So yeah, I agree with him.
Also depends on what you're rolling for. If you're solo or if you have a little crew, like it's something like even when I was by myself in the beginning, if I knew what I could bang out a 7-yard mulch job and a cleanup myself in one day. But then, you got a 20-yard residential cleanup. That's gonna, by itself, it takes you a while. So the jobs like that, I would have when I was solo or only had one guy, I would do the cleanup and the edging, and then probably, I think I was scheduling those like a couple weeks out where I wouldn't have anything but mulch for that week.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, that's kind of what we do is we kind of schedule our mulchings afterwards. But we're playing around because we have a couple cleanups left. And they do get the mulch. So I was thinking about just doing it all at once and try to save some time and not have to do, because we're already bringing a trailer full of mulch, and then we're always taking away, stuff from our edgings and stuff. So why not take it all with it? And then we can.
I mean, the other way you can do it, if you can get 5 guys, even if you have helpers, and that's just a general when I say generalization. You can have 3 guys on the cleanup. And then have 2 guys in another truck chasing you with mulch and banging the mulch out once you're done with the cleanup. That way, you're staying consistent and you're banging those jobs out on the commercial side. So
Yeah.
that's an option.
Oh yeah, definitely. JC, you had a good yearly debate. I think everybody goes on about this. So let's hear your yearly debate about this mulch.
All right. It seems like it comes up every single year, and you see it on social media all the time. People going back and forth, and the comments explode. All right. So the yearly debate when it comes to the season: black mulch, brown mulch, red mulch, or for a curveball, pine needle mulch. What's your pick?
For me, it would be black mulch. We love black mulch. I love doing black mulch. We don't do. I mean, we do a good amount of brown, but compared to our black, I mean, we do probably about 100 yards or more of black mulch a year. Compared to our brown, we're doing like 30, maybe 40 yards. But the one that I hate the most, and I'll just throw it out there, is red mulch. I mean, I hate red mulch. I hate the way it dyes the trucks. Yeah, I get it that black does the same thing, but black comes off easily, man. When you're walking around with red hands and your trailer's red, and I don't like the red mulch. I really don't. And luckily, a couple of our suppliers stopped carrying red mulch last year. So literally, I think there's one supplier in our area that carries red mulch, and I have one customer that's red mulch, and he might be going to the wayside here come next year because it's one of those ones that I don't like going and doing it. And we wait till the last minute. That's one of our last mulch jobs, which means he usually gets done probably in June. And, everybody else is done around him. And he's like the last guy in the neighborhood. So, but pine needle is very interesting. I mean, I've watched a bunch of guys down south do that. That's not something that we do up here. I've never seen it used up here, so it'd be very interesting. Josh, what's your thoughts on that one?
Um, so on my moneymaker's black for my clients and my sales. But for me personally, I have aged hemlock in my yard, and I'm a big aged hemlock in this area is a dark brown. So I'm a big dark brown guy. I would like black mulch if it would last. Um, I think it's nice, but it also amplifies weeds. When it starts to fade, it's a little ugly unless you're turning it. So, all the commercial properties they have, they get black mulch unless, we go into a new one and they have hemlock existing, and, we don't want to have to go in and put 4 inches of fucking, hemlock down or black down. I don't know if Jay was talking about the pine needle blend up here, but down there, but we don't do the pine needles down here. We have what's like a pine needle blend where it's like a black or a brown with pine needles mixed into it. Is that what you're talking about, Jay?
I know which one you're talking about, but we don't have the one I'm talking about is just the regular pine needles.
Oh,
But
okay,
yeah,
yeah,
I've only
yeah.
seen them online because I know we don't have them up here either. But I've seen like the southern guys use it.
Yeah, up here it's hemlock, aged hemlock. That might be like a spruce brown or some guys, and even in this area. So hemlock, aged hemlock, natural hemlock, black, and then yeah, this is the red. I wouldn't use red for the life of me. I mean, if a customer wants it, I'll do it. But I think I've gotten in 10 years, I've gotten one request for it.
You know, it's crazy. My mom likes red mulch. I'm like, what are you doing?
Really? I
Yeah,
think it is. I think it is kind of like an older person thing. Because usually it's like I get it. Like the one or two requests I got were for like somewhat older women, But even some of the natural hemlock, um, I think it might be dyed a little. That's starting to have more of a reddish tint over the past couple of years. I'm not a fan of it.
yeah. I'm a black mulch kind of guy.
Yeah.
See, we're all kind of that black mulch guy. I don't know, and like I've talked to a lot of guys about it in the last couple of months, and black mulch, it's like the main thing a lot of companies go with.
It's cheaper.
Brown, yeah, or a dark brown, like you were saying.
So dark brown for me. Hold on, let me just clarify that.
Yeah.
Black is the cheapest. Aged hemlock is one of the more expensive ones. I don't know. People might have like a spruce brown or a blow-in brown, but over here the darker brown, that's my preference. So again, in my yard when I do my mulch, I'm going after aged hemlock because I like that. It hides the weeds a bit longer. It does have a slight dye to it, but it lasts longer and you can turn the mulch. But I think the big thing with most people is the black is the cheaper option.
That's interesting. We got a couple listeners on Instagram and YouTube, and one of them says aj.g.dog.100 says they are starting to use a lot of rubber mulch in St. Louis. You guys ever use rubber mulch?
Yeah, on playgrounds for schools.
Yeah, we had a couple places do that, and now they're actually using like a single ground mulch on the playgrounds, which is kind of different. But yeah, I've seen rubber mulch done. We've installed it once or twice, and just not a fan of it. I mean, it just bounces around. I mean, I know there's tons of different colors in it. I've seen green and blue and all that kind of stuff for mulch. Which you're just a dye to.
I've only gotten a couple over 5 years. I've only gotten a couple of maybe a handful of requests for quotes, but I just the area I'm in, it's not something that's cost effective. There's one guy that has it, and the pricing of it is just absurd.
Right, I bet you it is. AJ, I'd love to know like what the pricing difference is between that and regular mulch for you guys over there. I mean, he says they're using it more for landscaping now. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. We got a lot of people up in our area changing over to stonework, so I mean that's got to be thing. He says it's very expensive to you guys. Guess let me know. Yeah, it's very expensive. I think it's very expensive to install like rubber mulch. A lot of people in our area go for a lot of the stone, changing over from mulch to stone, and that's another big expense that people don't realize. But they see that stone and they look at it, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I like that color of stone," and then you're like, "Well, ma'am, your mulch is only like about $50 a yard. This is about $250 a yard. So, it's a little bit more pricier, but we can install that stone. So, um,
I get
so
calls for
Josh,
the Mexican beach pebbles all the time
ooh,
until they realize it's $600 a ton,
yeah,
and they don't want to go for it.
yeah. There's one up here. It's black granite, and it's $350 a ton.
No,
And
Wow.
literally, we sell a lot of it. Um, and it's just people love it because it has, when it gets wet, it's got that nice black look to it. When it
yeah,
starts to dry up, it's got like a gray tinge to it. But it's one of the shiniest rocks you got, and the people just love it because it looks kind of like mulch from the far away, but it stands out really good.
no.
Oh, okay. He said he used to work for a factory where they used to make rubber mulch for playgrounds. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've never seen it being made, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see, and it is a very interesting piece of thing. Josh, so you use a lot of black mulch. Do you use it at the recommended amount down? That's another big debate. I hear a lot of people saying that you should use it at like 1. Some people say 3 inches when you put down mulch. What is your recommended that you guys put down?
Depends on the property. So, typically when we get a property, we give the customer the option. Like if they have, let's say they have a black mulch already there,
Right.
we'll go through the cleanup. We'll try to rake through the mulch and see what's salvageable, what's decomposed. If it's too decomposed, we'll offer to take out that first 2 inches and replace it with like 2-3 inches. Um, typically we're trying to get 2 inches on an application, like a refresh rather, where we'll go in and we'll fluff out the beds, rake them out, make it look, presentable. Take out that first inch and throw 2 more in. Honestly, on the commercial properties, it really depends. Some of those commercial properties, honestly, we'll paint it on. We'll put an inch or two. It depends on the contract. If it's something that's behind the shopping mall plaza, it would probably just, if a squirrel farts, it's gone type deal, but and then go a little heavier in the front. But the residentials, we give them the option where, it's X amount if we do the recommended 3 inches and we take out 2 or 3. Um, or, we can do a decent 2 and, rake out what's there. That's kind of the turnaround. If we're, going from like a hemlock to a black or a black to a hemlock, then we're doing 3 to 4 inches guaranteed with the
What
first
about a
time.
new install area?
3 to 4. So like on the new development, usually by spec you're putting in 4 to 6,
Okay.
depending on what you got. So on residential new install, yeah, we're doing it. Usually a compost growers mix for the soil and then 3 inches of the mulch.
Okay.
You
Okay.
had me cracking up. A squirrel farts, it's gone.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that's interesting. So, okay. So you do, just depends on what it is. So you're using up to at least 3 inches every time. Okay.
Right about that. Yeah.
Okay. So do you recommend, like, let's say you're doing that like on a yearly basis for a client? Do you recommend ripping some out after so many years, or do you let them go and keep going at 3 inches?
So
Because I know
if it's
now
not
you don't have a big mound around a tree now.
no. So the tree rings, you try to take out what you can. Usually, we always try to take out an inch regardless. So
Okay.
like, here's usually a rule of thumb: organic will decompose over 5 years. Bark conventional will start decomposing after 3. So when you see that really breaking down into fines, you usually want to try to get as much as that out. But again, if you first go to a property and you're putting in that 3 to 4 inches, you're taking an inch out each year. You're constantly just rotating that mulch 2 inches at a time. So it'll always stay clean. I know some guys will go in and say, hey, it's 3 inches, and then all of a sudden you'll have plants that are dying off after 2 3 years of having the property because you're burying those plants and suffocating them out. I know there was one year the South Shore, which is south of Boston.
Okay.
There was like a bad batch. The black mulch was very acidic, and people were putting it down, and they were getting the edge burn all on the grass line, and they were having like evergreens, like arborvitaes or boxwood start burning up. And it was really bad. And I guess there was a batch of mulch. So, you got to be careful with that. And that was usually on applications that were higher, able to hit that edge line.
Okay, I got a question for you, Josh. You plant first or mulch then plant?
On a new install,
Yeah.
plant.
Why?
Well, you get your depths right. You want to have your subgrade, your compost grade, and then your mulch grade. So then we leave that 3 inches on the crown of the planting and then bring our mulch in. That way we know exactly where we're going. So we get our soils in, we grade it, we put everything in, we set it to that last 3 inches above the line, we put our drip line irrigation in, and then we throw our mulch over that.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer. I like that answer. I mean, I think that's the best way to do it. What if it's not a new install and it's a pre-existing? They want plants installed. What would you rake around it, drop it down in, and then put the new mulch all around that?
So if it's, I'll give you two examples. Like I said, it's kind of the same thing. So yes, I plant first regardless. So I would plant first. If it's somewhere where like maybe they had a spring cleanup and we didn't do it and they had a mulch job and we went in and we did plantings, we would quote them, say it was like an 8 yard mulch job for the entire garden. We'd probably quote them on like 4 inches because obviously we're gonna tear it up with the dirt and everything, and we would just touch it up that way.
Okay. Okay. That's very interesting. Very interesting.
Do you, if it's really decomposed, would you rather just till it into the soil or remove it?
I'd rather remove it.
Okay.
Because again, like if it's not fully decomposed, a lot of that shit takes a long time to break down. You're just adding mounds and mounds. And that's a lot of times when you end up with those fucking tree rings that are huge, or you go into a mulch bed that's just like it's never been turned, no one's raked it out. I mean, you could till it up if you wanted to. But I just feel like you added more bark and it's harder to break down over time.
Right. Wouldn't I mean?
And I'm sorry, I think my dyslexia kicked in. Organic mulch breaks down into 3 years, and conventional is 5 years, so it takes longer.
Would you? Okay. Well, here's a question for you. I always have the hardest time trying to get customers to remove their mulch. What is the best way to tell the customer that you need to remove that mulch? I mean, to us, it's more of like saying, it's going to damage your plants. You're going to end up with, high mounds all over the place, and then end up being, mold issues against the building. What do you?
I just tell them it's not an environment to have anything growing out of it. You got to throw down some. You got to expose the soil, get some fresh soil if you need it in there, and then complete the job.
Okay. Josh?
I think a lot of it just comes down to cost with some people, to be honest with you. They don't want to pay the money, whether it's a few $100 to have it taken out, to have them put in. But that's again where you go back and you said, hey, you go over with a shovel or a rake and you dig out and you see what they actually have. You could say, hey, you have, 3 inches in the 2.5. We'll take that 2 out and we'll just replace it with the 2 rather than your 3, and then constantly replace that 2 every year. Or again, you educate them with, hey, every once in a while you want to go heavy and you want to take this mulch out and maybe add some compost to the yard and then start fresh. But I mean, I think it's usually a cost restriction with people, or again, educate them, decomposition of the breakdowns and how it doesn't always break down, and it's hard for soil, water, and nutrients to get into that soil because you have these large pieces of bulk that are restricting that. So it's education and cost restriction, but I think if you let people know that, hey, I'm not putting the full 3 yards 3 inches in there, it's going to be 2, so you're saving that half a yard per square foot or something like that.
Right.
Per square yard.
Right. So, is it common for you guys to sell more mulch than any other thing, like rocks or anything like that up by you?
Yes.
Okay. See a lot more people doing the mulch than rock installs.
I got a buddy that says he's doing a lot more rock installs. We get them, but most of the time, again, it's cost prohibited.
Okay.
People don't want the upfront. So figure it's like $135 per yard of mulch installed, versus $250 per yard of stone installed. Where granted, you're only doing the stone once, maybe every 7 years, and you're still just refreshing stone. A lot of people don't want the upfront cost right there. It's cost prohibited, so they'd rather take that 135 per year for the next few years. Um, we usually try to do drip line if they want some sort of stone incorporated into it. So we'll do like a drip line is essentially you're running across the foundation where if they didn't have gutters, the water would run off and hit the stone rather than the mulch bed, and then we would do, you know, probably 18 inches of a drip line, and then the rest would be mulch. But I
Right.
didn't know for me personally, I don't know about Jay. I we've done it, but it's not something that's all the time.
Yeah. Jake's looking up mulch. He's looking up the difference between rocks and mulch.
Yeah, no, I'm looking looking at
I think
different flowers.
it's one of those things. Like, I get what you're saying, Josh. It's one of those things. It's hard to get a customer to change over from mulch to rock. A lot of them see that rock and see the price, and then they're like, "Well, I don't know if I want to do it." But I always come back to them like what you said is like, yeah, you have the upfront cost of, to say, the mulch is only $600 a year, right? But your cost for your stone is going to be $1,500. Okay, if you add it up between 5 years, you've now spent over that $1,500 and then in mulch compared to stone. So in that, in 5 years, you're going to maybe have to replace maybe a yard compared to 5 yards of stone up front, and it's still going to look pretty for you, and you're not going to have to worry about that color discoloration and all that other stuff. So
Yeah,
I mean,
that's gonna work in more your affluent areas, but your regular Joe isn't thinking about, the
right,
cost differential in 5 years. He's thinking about, I got shoes to buy for my kids and groceries to pay for. I can get away and save $1,000 by just doing the mulch. I get what you're saying, and I give people that option where I'm like, hey, listen, the upfront cost is the counter of like the next 10 years of not having to pay for that mulch. It pays for itself. And then the upsell opportunity you have there is most of the time people aren't putting their pre-emergent down. So you could sell a package where, you're coming out once a month or at least once a spring and putting down a pre-emergent and pulling the weeds. Because we all know, what do you usually see after you do a stone bed within a year? They're fucking covered in weeds. And then you
yeah,
know how much of a pain in the ass is as a landscaper to go in there and pull those weeds and still keep it clean. You're putting weed mat down, but that weed mat doesn't do jack shit. Once the birds are flying around, those weed seeds are dropping in between and still germinating. So sell a care package with it, where you go out and you spray a few times a year, you put pre-emergent and you say, hey, we'll come by, every other month and pull weeds. So do the same thing with the mulch.
right. So here's a good debate. I'm seeing this debate too is starting to come up more and more. Do you weed barrier or do you don't weed barrier?
Nope.
Nope.
If it
JC?
calls for it, I'll do it, but nope.
I think if you put a thick enough layer of the mulch, that should be your weed barrier.
Right.
Plain soil and a thick enough layer of mulch, because weed barriers are like, again, weeds are gonna get through that, and what's the first thing that happens when you pull that sucker? You pull that weed barrier up and you'll never get it again.
Right.
I've pulled more out for customers than I've put in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we do it a lot for our stone jobs. When it comes to mulch, I won't put it in a mulch bed. I feel like it's defeating the purpose, because after 2-3 years of a brand new mulch, you're just added all that new soil on the ground, and then you're ending up with weeds just again. I've seen so many customers that'll come to me after 2 years of brand new weed barrier and say, "Man, I got more weeds now than I did before you put the weed barrier in. What do I do?" And it's like, well, you got to maintain your yard. You got to either have us come out and spray it, like you were saying earlier, and maintain it on a monthly basis, or you got to get out there and pick it when you see it. And a lot of people are like, "Well, I didn't know that." And then you're "Oh, well, can you just rip it out?" Well, yeah, I can, but then that's restarting everything over. So,
I tell you that the weeding service this time of year when you're starting to do mulch and beds. So the weeding service, and if you're allowed to, license restricted, it all depends. The pesticide the herbicide applications and the pre-emergent. That is one of the biggest and best upsells you have. The weeding is 100% labor, so you're making good profit on that. The spraying, if your markup's right, you're making real good profit on that. And even if they say no, I'm saying 6 times out of 10, when they're out there realizing how much of a pain it is to spray the pre-emergent, they kill a plant, they're putting down the herbicides and it's not working. At some point, they're gonna call you back and say, "Fuck it, what was that plan?" And make sure that you advertise that to the customers and say, "Hey, here are the different options where we just put down 2 grand worth of mulch. If you really want to protect the investment, have us come out, and do a service once a month. It'll cost you a couple $100. We spray the weeds where we need to spray them. We pull them out. We turn the mulch. We let you know if all the plants are healthy and whatnot, what needs to be trimmed. And you still have a source of upselling within that upsell. But as long as you educate the customer of like why you're doing these things, because I mean, a lot of the times, you call somewhere with like a mechanic, or you call a fertilizer company. It's like, shut the fuck up and just price me on what I want. But if you say, "Hey, I just want to give you a heads up. These are the services we offer. This is what it costs. You don't have to do it, but it's an option just to keep your yard looking fresh and clean. It saves you the time." Most of the time, they say, "No, no, no. We'll do it ourselves." And a lot of the time, we get a phone call back, and we set a lot of customers. Again, these are customers that we don't even do weekly mowing for. We don't do any of that stuff for. We just do bed work. We go in, and it's a couple $100, and the guys are there for maybe an hour, and they're knocking shit out, and there's always some sort of upsell. Whether it's, we want to put some plant fertilizer down, or we see some disease on boxwoods or rose bushes, and there's a lot there, and it makes a good amount of money.
Right. I got one more question here, and then JC's got a good question for us. But would you guys? I've seen this out there. I've been approached by another company that sells the stuff to spray the mulch beds with the new colorant. Would you recolorant the mulch beds halfway through the season?
I've never tried it, but I'm interested in using that. They also have it's like a tack type of mulch glue.
Yeah, they sent me some mulch glue, and I'm gonna use it on actually a stone. So I've actually seen some stone beds using it, but I'm more worried about the weeds still coming up through it.
Yeah, so the mulch dye, I'm very interested in using that just to see how it works. But yeah, I've seen some people use that.
Okay, Josh, would you spray the colorant on the mulch beds?
I've never even heard of that, but I'd be interested in that. Yeah, is it depending on what's involved? If you're just spraying the top, I think it would be a nice upsell. The mulch tack, I'm actually gonna get some and use it at my house as an experiment this year, just to see how. Usually when I get stuff, I use it at my house first, just to see how it works, and then if it works, then I sell it. So I didn't know about the dye spray, but I know like in California they were painting the lawns green. So essentially, I guess if it works for them out there, it's the same concept.
Right, it's the same company that sells the green stuff that you spray the lawns with. They have black, I think they have red, they have one color of brown, and you just mix it in a hand can or a backpack sprayer and just go through the bed and spray the bed. That's simple.
I mean, that'd be great for customers that have a strict budget. When you put those 3 inches in, you could upsell them to the sense where every other spring you just give a soft rate to the mulch and then spray it with the dye, and then spray it with the tack. I mean, that's a decent, depending on what the cost of the material is. I mean, I'm gonna look that up when we get off the podcast.
It's kind of sacrilegious. I know, being a lawn guy and loving that natural green lawn.
Right.
But, and I'm saying this online, I'm not ashamed to do so, I may use the green lawn dye for like special occasions, like 4th of July or something like that you want to give a little more spruce, because there are some spots in my lawn that kind of the grass doesn't really survive too well in the summertime.
Right.
Not that it doesn't survive, it just gets drought really easier than others, so it's inconsistent colors. I've never used it. All my lawn's always been natural, but I may give that a try this year just to see.
How long does that dye last?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would imagine after a couple mowings, I mean, it's see you later, But,
yeah, it goes down.
It's got to be. It would have to be a while. But I mean, just think about it. If you're down in an area that's very dormant, and you could sell it to a customer that wants still that green yard, I mean, what is it? You go out there every 3 weeks and spray it, during a drought. You're still making a good income by doing that instead of cutting the grass. See
You
what I'm
better
saying?
find a way to install it really quick, because if
Right.
you're going line by line by line on a backpack pump sprayer, it's going to take you a while.
I tell you,
Yeah.
I'm actually transforming my lawn bit by bit over to clover. I'm putting
Right.
clover down. So I've been, not me, my wife has been like in bare spots. She's been adding it. At some point, I'm gonna just level the whole lawn. It's not on my immediate to do list, and just plant clover. And like Jensen, I think has seen my yard so far. Like in the spring and summer, I get a very pollinator friendly yard, and the clover helps with that too. Not to mention, 80% less water. It's more resilient. It bounces back, and more than anything, it stays green year round.
Fun fact: I did mow his lawn once.
Yep.
Oh, you did? Oh. Did he pay you good for it? I hope he did. I
He
mean,
did. I didn't want to take any money on. He's stubborn. He shoved it down my shirt, I think.
I got a nice video, a picture of him lying edging my walkway.
Oh yeah,
as long as he did it, that's a good thing.
yeah.
You know.
That's fun.
JC, you had a question about, the, you know,
Yeah, it's for
what?
Josh, or for either of you guys.
So,
And
Josh,
I say Josh because he's in my area, so weather-wise. But for you, it may be different.
I want to know for your area. I know.
Um,
Some flowers and shrubs that you include in a new install.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
standard. Like if you're gonna like sell a package to somebody, you're gonna do a new mulch install on a bed. Like, what are some of the basic flowers or shrubs that you would use?
For me, I usually go with the red twig, which is also dogwood. Um, Personally, I love roses, so depending on the property, whether it's a knockout or if it's a creeping. I'm a big fan of azaleas. Butterfly bushes are one of my favorite. Um, so those are kind of my basics, and if I'm using kind of higher stuff, I'll go after hydrangeas. Maybe if I'm going like an evergreen, I'll go after like an arborvitae, a cypress. I do like female hollies because I like the berries. But typically, what I try to do, I do like a very basic setup of plantings, and I try to give them foliage for each part of the year. So I try to give them like the winter green, the spring bloom, the summer bloom, and in the fall you have that winter green. Plus the hollies will give off those red berries when they come around. The female hollies.
Right. Yeah. By us, it's more of hostas, daylilies. Roses are a big thing that I like to use. Spirea, nine barks. Nine barks give you that color, some bright color during the year. They grow fast. And then we go with some boxwoods, some glow boxwoods, some evergreens.
Pretty similar to what we got up here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of basics, but that's kind of like more of a basic. A lot of stuff I try to sell for people that way. My perennials are pretty much, like lilac stuff, some lavender. I like to kind of put that fragrance in there every once in a while if we can, just to kind of give them some kind of a little bit of a smell, and tell everybody, make sure if you are allergic to bees, we'll switch it out with, more, perennials that don't have flowering stuff, so that way it's easier for you.
Yeah, I have to do a video of my yard and what I have kind of in my beds, and I got trees galore. My wife just bought a whole bunch of new trees to put
Yeah,
up.
I do it for my yard, but I don't have nothing in my yard. I have no landscaping in my yard right now. So
See, I developed beds. I got like I got a weeping cherry, I got a willow, I got an apple tree, I got a magnolia tree. I'm gonna get another magnolia. Um, I have what I like to call a Dr. Seuss tree. I have a cypress that's kind of like the level, something out of that book. And my wife just bought a few more. And then I have the butterfly bushes. I have the azaleas. There's a whole bunch of shit in there. I don't know. And then we did one year on our boulevard, which is a strip of the grass after our property on the city.
right.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it. My wife, she put cosmos, wildflowers all throughout there. And they got about 4 or 5 feet high, and they bloomed. And man, we get compliments left and right. We didn't do it last year, but we're probably gonna do something this year with it.
I've been slowly clearing out a path in my backyard towards the way back. A bunch of just wild trees have grown out throughout the years, and Anyway, so I'm clearing that path. My intention is to kind of build a shed back there, but also too, I want to plant Japanese cherry blossoms.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like those
Yeah.
trees. And magnolia trees. If you find a yellow magnolia tree, those are nice.
Mine's good. It gave off some nice blooms. And you know what's funny? Mine didn't leaf drop this year. They stayed. It was really nice. So I want to get one more, but I also want to incorporate a birch into my property. I'm kind of running out of room for the fucking trees right now.
You got a smaller yard, yeah.
Yeah, I got a small yard. I'm in the city, but that's why I kind of like when I do level the lawn. I think I'm going to eliminate all the existing beds I have,
Right.
like that don't have like where my cypress is, my Dr. Seuss tree. I just have annuals in there where I think I'm going to get rid of that bed. I actually have the Japanese cherry blossom, and I'm going to eliminate those beds. And then usually we have the hostas that run along. I think I'm going to eliminate those beds along the walkway and just put boxwoods to do a hedge.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be real nice.
Josh, you want to help
So-
me build my shed?
Let's do it.
This weekend. So go back to the turf coloring, okay? They say use 8 ounces per 1 gallon, okay? And it covers 700 square feet, okay? You can't do it if it's going to rain within 24 hours. You got to give it 24 hours to take into the grass, and it'll last up to 8 weeks at least. So if you're trying to sell it as a service, you're talking every 8 weeks you need to go out and respray that yard.
I feel like to be competitive, you'd have to buy that in bulk.
Yeah, you would have
Yeah,
to.
Yeah, if you could show up somewhere with like a 330 gallon tote or something, rather than buying in like the small bottles. I feel like buying the small bottles is going to be expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a concentrate, though, isn't it?
Yeah, usually they are. Anything like that's a concentrate. You said 8 ounces to the gallon, so it's got to be concentrate.
Yeah, I've never used it.
But even those 8 ounces, so like right now, I use like a all natural, slightly organic mosquito and tick repellent, and when I buy that and just the handle, man, it's like $250 fucking a gallon. You know, granted the gallon will go pretty far, but I think when I priced it and I bought like 300 gallons, that price dropped about like $50-$60 a gallon or something like that.
You using the organic stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maramichi, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or Maramichi makes it's not. You can call it organic because it's more like cedar oil and lemongrass, which essentially you can make it yourself. I'm just too fucking lazy to do it. But there is some sort of like all natural, and like I think we talked about this before about the food, all natural ingredient that you can't technically call it organic because it's not organic. There is like a chemical compound, but it's so minimal that they can sneak by calling it organic, all natural.
Yeah, because
I don't need a license to apply it.
That's my point. Is that you could buy the organic stuff and not have to have a license to apply it. Yeah.
So the site one that I go to, they're very strict. So like even when I go in to buy a snapshot from my yard, they bust my balls. So like again, I'm not supposed to apply it because I don't have the pesticide license, but I do anyway. I have a buddy of mine going to buy like 6 bags of the snapshot at a time. But if I go in to buy the Baramichi, I could buy 16 gallons and they won't say anything.
Which site one do you go to?
Haverhill.
There's one in Auburn.
Yeah, but you got to remember, I'm not my shop's not down here. Everything's kind of based around there. So, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of the shit, man. I hate to admit it, but like you can buy a lot of shit on Amazon for cheaper with less fucking fuss, you know. And a lot of times now, I try to go direct to the manufacturer just because like a lot of the stuff I'm trying to do in bulk now. So like even the Maramichi, like I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna start off with I don't do a lot of it, so my gallons, but if I want to pursue it, I'm gonna go with them directly and see if I buy it in bulk.
Right.
If it'll be cheap, like how much cheaper it will actually be. I know what I got advertised from site one was significantly cheaper, but.
Right. So you like to put down, so on your pre-emergent, do you like to use more of a liquid than a dry?
No, I use dry.
Okay.
I put it on dry. I put it in just one of those hand feeders and throw it down.
Okay. Yeah, that's usually the easiest way to do a lot of
Yeah.
them. So
Like
definitely.
my yard, I take fucking handfuls and throw it down. Where there's a lot of weeds, I bury it with the shit. I probably fucking kill all the ants and the worms in there, but you know.
Right. Okay. Here's another one. Do you preen or snapshot before or after you mulch?
Before.
Before. Why?
Because it takes into the soil. The weeds grow in the soil, not necessarily the mulch. So I try to get it down to make sure that we have good contact. If we're kind of in a drought and it's not raining, if it's a small yard, we'll water it in because it obviously doesn't activate until that's why, like right now in spring, the commercial properties, we're trying to get it down so at least it activates. Um, you can do it over
It looks like
over
crap
mulch.
though.
Yeah, because remember, it's like a yellowish, greenish tint. It just sits in there, and if it doesn't dissolve, it looks like shit. So you want to get it in, or get it in and at least rake it if you're not doing it, as a pre-mulch application.
Right. I see a lot of customers that we do it for always are like, well, can you put it over top? Because I want to make sure that you're putting it down because I don't trust that you're not putting it down, because they can't see it.
Yeah.
It's one of the things they can't see, So.
But I feel like if you liquefy it, what are you gonna see? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, we have both liquid and dry, but the liquid we kind of more use towards like the edges of driveways and sidewalks and stuff to kind of keep down the pre-emergent for the weeds and stuff. So, but it's one of those things. Like it's you either get the people that believe you that you put it down, or you got them ones that are like, oh, I don't believe that you put it down. Put it down and get even more, and then you're putting more that you need to. So.
You know what one of my best sellers for garden weed control? It's not a pesticide, but it's during the monthlies is I take one of those backpack pump sprays and I fill it up with vinegar and dilute it. And it's 100% organic. So a lot of people don't want to hurt the bees and the hummingbirds, which I do the same thing in my place. And it works too. I mean, granted, you have to go a little heavier with the application, but it being organic, it costs a little bit more money. It's the same thing like you go to the grocery store and you get the normal beef or you get the organic beef. The organic beef is going to cost, 5% more. So, the same thing with this. The vinegar is kind of expensive. So when I mix the vinegar in, there's a dilution process to it. But it's if the application for a yard was, $75 to spray, whatever the chemical compounded to it, $100 for that, I'd probably get about $135 for the organic application. And it sells like a motherfucker because it's organic.
Right. That's always good too. Good. So do you use regular vinegar for that, or do you get special vinegar for that?
It's white vinegar.
White vinegar?
Add a few drops of dish soap to make a surfactant.
Yep. We do. I always forget the Don, but he's 100% right. The dish detergent, and it makes a fucking world of difference.
Wow.
And again, it's one of those things. We tell the customers that, and we tell them we offer it, but it's something you can do yourself. And usually after they do it the first time and it doesn't work, they call us back.
Right. It's always one of those things. It's just amazing how customers are and how they take care of their yards. It's always one of those things you're just like, what to do now, so.
Yeah. And also is they non-licensed, like for poison ivy, I do a lot of poison ivy spraying for the commercial places. Bleach. Diluted bleach in a backpack spray.
Wow.
Works like a chump. It'll grow back eventually, but to keep it tame and out of sight, out of mind, spray the fuck out of it with bleach.
There you go, guys. If you need to take care of some, poison ivy, there you go. Diluted bleach. There you go. I don't know if they'll let me buy that much at the dollar store, so I don't know.
Just get you know what's funny? Get swimming pool chlorine, same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's great too. Like if you're near like wetland, like around here, we have a lot. Well, not here, but my service area, I have a lot of conservation of wetlands. So like I spray for utility companies all over, from like central Massachusetts to eastern Mass. I'm one of the only guys in the network for a national company that can spray because I use the organic blend, and with the bleach because I'm on near wetlands, I can spray anywhere in there. Versus someone that comes in with the herbicide.
That's not bad. Not bad. All right, guys. Well, we are at the end of the show today. I hope everybody learned some stuff, and thank you to all our sponsors: Cujo, Pro Parts Direct, Mallard, Shurcan, Antigo Wheels, and Stable for all the stuff that they sponsored and sponsoring the last giveaway, which was very awesome. So go ahead and go check those guys out. But thank you guys for listening. Keep watching us. Keep listening to us on Spotify and